All right, we're on a roll here. We've been scaling our solution and scaling our channels. Now it is time to scale our segments. So now we're going to move from the one customer segment we've been focused on to a second customer segment. So problems we're going to solve. So when should you move to your target, so your second customer segment? And then what order should you continue repeating this process? How do you know which segment to go after third, fourth, and fifth? So what we've just finished talking about how to scale your channel. So you're going to automate part of your solution, then you're going to start switching in, scaling your channel, and you're going to keep doing that over and over and over again until you have a fully baked solution and you are killing it in all of your channels for one customer segment. Once you've exhausted all of the reasonable channels for your customer segment, then and only then is it time to move on and start scaling to a different customer segment. So I'm a big fan of, once you know one particular customer segment, exhausting every person in that channel before moving on to a secondary channel. Because as soon as you move on to a secondary channel, or excuse me, a secondary customer segment, you end up having to solve a slightly different problem. It may be very similar, and maybe you can use the different same solution, but the wording may be different, the currency may need to be different, and the solution may in fact need to be different. So things get a lot more complicated as soon as you do that. So you want to hold off on doing that until you've nailed and exhausted all of your channels. But once you've done that, now it is time to go and scale your customer segment. And the way you do that is by going back to the finding early adopters phase and beginning your customer interviews again. And just to validate, are you getting the same problems? If you're getting the same problems, then you can use a very similar problem-centric message for your offer, although you may end up using different channels, and then from there you'll go experiment with your currency, your utility testing, and then you'll again continue this process of scaling the channels for that second customer segment. So how do you know which customer to go start with secondly? Well, one of two things will happen. Number one, as you're running your experiments with your first customer segment, they will start telling other people about it, other people who are not your typical customer segment. And if things are going well, what you might find is you're getting inundated by requests to solve your problem by people who were not your target customer. So in that case, you'll want to reassess and you'll want to understand, like, wait, which one should I be going after second? Should I go after the segments that you lined up the first time around in your scale exercise? Remember when we did this way back when? In your scale exercise, you actually talked about which segments you were going to go to first. So you may have written up, and in my case, innovation consultants at leading conferences might be who I write up, and that's who I'm going to go after next. So if you're not getting any other additional data from your experiments, then fall back to your scale exercise. In this case, in my case, I'm seeing a lot of interest from entrepreneurship professors. They are expressing a lot of interest in what we're doing. So I may go back and redo my scale exercise just to see, should I be spending more time in the professorship space as opposed to the innovation consultant space? So once you do that, you simply repeat the process again. You pick another customer segment, and now you know exactly what to do. You know the process to go through. Do your offer testing, your currency testing, your utility testing, scale all of your channels for that new customer, and then start again. So that's it. That's what it takes to go scale your additional customer segments. So we've answered the question, when should you target your second customer segment? That is after you've exhausted and finished scaling all of your channels. So wait until you finish all your channels, then move on to a second customer segment. And then what order should you target your segments in? Well, every time you go back and start a new segment, run your scale exercise again just to see who it makes sense to target right now based on the current data that you have. All right, this has been Segments to Scale. Next up, we're going to talk about when you're done scaling.